In the fifth session, we'll address the matter of apologetics in modernism and postmodernism. William Lane Craig has hinted that culture has shifted away from his kind of apologetics, very effective, dealing with doubts and questions arising from modernism, but perhaps not so effective in postmodernism. Why? Because the things that bother people today are not what they used to be bothered even 10, 20 years ago. In modernism, we dealt with people like Richard Dawkins, like Daniel Dennett, evolutionism and atheism. That's attack from the modernism against our faith. And then when they attack the Bible itself, higher criticism, lower criticism, or documented hypothesis. Basically, biblical books are unreliable because they are full of errors and written much later by pseudo-writers. This is the gist of the attack of the modern critique. So we fight against that because they want to destroy inerrancy. In a modernist world, we respond to that by producing books like this, The Battle for the Bible in Defense of Inerrancy by Harold Lindsell. Hey, he was a full professor of PhD, big-time guy, and this kind of book tried to defend the Bible against the modernist attack against the Bible, but they understood no culture. These wonderful yet Anglo-Saxon Protestant professors, they understood no culture. So the defense looks very wooden literalistic. For example, he was bothered by the fact that, according to Matthew and Luke, Peter denied Jesus 3 times and the rooster crowed once. But according to Mark, rooster crowed twice. So to him, that was contradiction. Oh no, there's a contradiction. 1 and 2, you know how he resolved it? Peter denied Jesus 6 times. Poor Peter. Why? He had to harmonize it. He couldn't think that, well, you could tell a story like that. To put it differently, you could say the rooster crowed twice if you went into details, or you could simply just say once if the focus is on the denial itself. That's not a conflict. That's not a matter of inerrancy. But to many Western evangelical scholars with a wooden literalistic understanding of inspiration and culture to them is just Western culture, this and many other passages like that are contradictions to be resolved with forced harmonization. Unfortunately, that has been a good portion of apologetics in dealing with doubts and questions rising in modernism. So not very good defense. And then in modernism, we defend the canon, right? This Ellen Page from Harvard, the Gnostic Gospel. This is from Da Vinci Code. Remember 15 years ago, the earlier Gospels, Gnostic Gospels were outlawed, gathered up, and burned. And they said, in a nutshell, almost everything our fathers taught us about Christ is false. So there was cottage industry developed. About 20 books were published to defend the Bible against Da Vinci Code. That's modernism. We fought against the Dawkins, we fought against Daniel Dennett, higher criticism, lower criticism, Da Vinci Code, and it greatly confused our believers. I remember getting this email from a student at University of Illinois who went to CFC, talking about the effect that Da Vinci Code had on her life. That book was so good, but I hated it because it messed with my mind. I could only imagine how many people got screwed over from reading that book. In modernism, their attack on the Bible mess our mind and screw up our mind. That's modernism. So, apologetic in modernism, we should rescue our people from doubts and confusion. That's what we do in apologetics in modernism. But in postmodernism, it is no longer doubts and confusion. It is anger and blaming. Anger at who? The Bible. They don't care about, they have enough problem with the Bible as it is, but that's not what they're worrying about. They think that Bible itself is full of problem, is social. Maybe there were others, but this is the first guy that I know who did this. He was the bishop of Episcopal Church, John Spong. 1995, he attacked the Bible in the sins of Scripture. Terrible text, to justify such sins as overbreeding, degradation of the environment, sexism, child abuse, and anti-Semitism. Of course, in another book, Wrestling Bible Fundamentalism, he blamed the Bible for creating homophobia. So it was a social cultural condemnation of the Bible. You agree with him? You brim with anger and blaming the Bible. The Bible itself is the root of all social problems. A few months ago, I was teaching Philemon. This is from that PowerPoint. What did Paul decide to do? Send Onesimus back to his master in Colossus. Why would he do that at his law? A proper thing to do, both legally and spiritually. And one of the people said, Paul sent him back? Why did Paul send him back? That's unjust. I never saw it coming. He said, he should have kept him. Why is he part of that unjust system? He read into Roman slavery system, the colonial slavery system. I'm not saying that the Roman system was justifying, but that was the way of life. But no matter what explanation we gave, he felt morally right. Now consider the case of one of my relatives who is quite famous, who used to believe. He used to go to church. But he said, I don't believe anymore. Why? Is it because inerrancy issue? Is it because, no, I no longer believe because of the Bible's poor treatment of women. So I tried to explain how, according to sociologist Rodney Stark, Christianity promoted liberating social relations between the sexes and within the family, giving women more status than they enjoyed in Roman society, where they remained the property of men. But it didn't matter. He felt morally right. This is different type of attack against the Bible. You see, this may be our people, a good portion of them, possessor of compartmentalized faith. Believing the gospel on the one hand, while on the other hand, seamlessly drinking the Kool-Aid of post-truth world. I think there's a cognitive disconnection. Just because we preach the gospel doesn't mean that we naturally are adhering to biblical worldview. Example, too often they are suckered in by appeals to have compassion toward people who are busy breaking laws, civil or moral, in one form or another. So this person who goes to AMI church wrote me and says, I'm against homosexuality, but for same-sex marriage. So I said, that makes as much sense as saying marry bachelor or square triangle. You can say it, but it makes no sense. You think homosexuality is sin, but same-sex is okay? So there's a cognitive disconnection. They want to believe because they are Christian, at the same time, they're drinking from post-truth Kool-Aid. And what are we doing? Third, inwardly they feel fearful of being canceled for expressing disagreements or doubts, but outwardly busy virtue signaling. Feeling morally right is action. Lamenting for Atlanta, no to Kavanaugh, but silent for people who died in Boulder. And Cuomo, shh. That is not only cognitive disconnection, just lacking valor. Passionate talking about social justice publicly, but unwilling to make costly changes to live such a life. I don't like Shane Claiborne's message. I live Jesus. I never talk about Jesus. Read Jesus off how I live. But at least 15 years ago, he went into a most dangerous place in Philadelphia, purchased a dilapidated building with few other people, renovated it, and began to live among the poor, urban poor, and live out his life. Do that. That's social justice. We need to call that out. Their tacit belief that feeling moral is action. And us. So we face a tough choice. Do we tell the truth, however tactfully, which may lead to canceling us and decrease attendance, or do we go easy with it? Neither Christ against culture, nor Christ of culture, but speaking the truth in love. That concludes the fifth session. Now take a moment to consider the discussion questions. In the following section, we will begin to address how postmodernism got here through the factor of race and ethnicity. Thank you.